order, adoption of the agenda, Councillor Spencer.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Rosehart, that the agenda is prepared for the council budget meeting December 16th, 2024, be approved with the exception of item 7.2 to follow. The same as right?
I can do it, that, the budget meeting of December 16, 2024 be approved with moving item 7.1.2, 2025 budget adjustments, finance 24-060, to proceed item 8 on the agenda. And you're here to, oh, you're here to read this. No, I'm not reading it here. 7.1.2 was moved right before item 8. Does everyone understand? Have any questions? Mover and seconder are correct, fine with that? All those in favor? We all carried. Disclosures of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof. Seeing none. Adoption of council minutes, Councillor Rosehart.
Council meeting minutes dated December 9th, 2024 be approved. Thank you.
Errors or omissions? All those in favor? Carried. Next, we invite Mark Renell, the Executive Director of the BIA, to come forward to make a presentation. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, Mayor Gavese, Deputy Mayor Barras, members of council, senior leadership team, and those joining us at home. I'm here tonight to be more than happy to discuss our budget and business plan for 2025. I would like to start by outlining what sort of the process is for us under the Municipal Act. So we as a team worked very hard all year long to bring a budget document forward to our Board of Management. We did that on October the 30th. There was a minor change made. We had a consultation with the members of the BIA at our annual general meeting, which was held on December 4th at the Legion. And I believe there was a few members of council that were there, including the mayor. And then tonight, the process, obviously, following the Municipal Act, is that council considers our budget for approval. I want to start by a quick video, if I could. It should be embedded in the council. No worries. So essentially, what a lot of BIAs and business improvement districts are doing is the 3 C's, which are community, culture, and commerce. And no matter the size of any community, whether it's a large city and it's a business improvement district in their downtown, such as Chicago or a Calgary or an Ottawa, or it's a smaller urban area like Tillsonburg, the concept of what we do as a placemaking organization is essentially the same. So community, that's obviously at the heart of what we do and why. Culture, obviously public art, things that we do in the downtown. Entertainment, I'll be speaking a lot tonight about activations and what that means. And then the festivals, things such as Turtle Fest. And then lastly, most importantly, is commerce, and that's the integral economic engine of all of our member businesses that we have downtown. Where we come from, this is exciting. I think we're one of the oldest BIAs in the entire world, believe it or not. Council back in the day had the wisdom to create the BIA by bylaw in 1978. We will be celebrating our 50th year anniversary coming up in 2028. We've had a strong recovery from the pandemic. We have a great reputation for the care and cleanliness of our downtown. We built a solid team from the ground up. A resilient membership we're very, very proud of. They are very strong people that have gotten through the pandemic and so on. Low vacancy rates, financial challenges we're putting behind us. We are growing from a strong foundation, which is continuous improvement. Because of all this hard work, ladies and gentlemen, we were bestowed upon a provincial award of merit by the Ontario BIA Association for our operations earlier this year. In terms of what we do, we are all about creating and supporting community events and activations. I think most of you know that we're a foundational partner in Turtle Fest, which in turn strengthens the entire BIA. We will continue to lead events to be held downtown where and when possible. This really isn't something from a selfish perspective. It's more about when we plan events, the nucleus and the infrastructure to hold events is in place downtown, the support mechanism, as it were. Third, planning and executing events and activations in the Tillsonburg Town Center. What's really important about this point is municipal address is 164, 170, 200, and 248 Broadway, which are the 4 addresses that make up the Town Center Mall and Canadian Tire. They represent fully 50% of the BIA zone. And we have a fiduciary and a moral obligation to make sure that we are supporting that business and what we do. Increasing the use of town-owned lands and assets in the downtown core. A little story on this one. For the pancake breakfast that was held on Canada Day, which is the signature event that is done by the Station Arts Center. All we did that day is add a synthetic ice surface to that event, and we literally had this tapped from 8 o'clock until noon when it was taken down. And lastly, we will continue to support all the other activities that happen downtown. The most recent one was the very successful Optimus Night Parade. And all we do is we're not there to run it, we're just there to help make sure that it runs smoothly. When we meet as a group, we have our own, just like we have SLT, we have internal leadership meetings with the BIA every Wednesday. And one of the things that we always talk about is the importance of making fact-based decisions. There's this new thing called the School of Cities. It's a faculty at the University of Toronto. They have created this new metric called the Downtown Index. That is one thing we're going to be using, and we're going to be implementing this benchmark so that we can compare Tillsonburg downtown to the other 330 BIAs in Ontario, and quite frankly, other business improvement districts around the world. That tracks metrics that are essential to what makes a downtown successful. Things like vacancy rates, functionality, services mix, and I want to go through these because they're important. Residential growth, environment, traffic, mobility, public transit, housing affordability, retail mix and variety, which is something we need to focus on, availability of services, and the last item here is the 3 Ps, what I call parkland, public realm, and public spaces for activations. We need to be using these digital tools so that we can make a good decision based upon attendance of all the events that we have. We're using Environics Analytics. This is something that was introduced to us by Rosalind Toscanio, who's the National Director of Marketing for Saltel Capital. And late breaking news on that, I think they're going to help us pay or give us some of those things for free, which is phenomenal. When the other thing Environics has done is they've created a geo fence for the downtown Tillsonburg zone, and they can compare up to every other BIA in Ontario and across the country. We are working with the University of Toronto on the development of the index that's more relevant to us. And the most exciting thing on this page is we're now a member of Strong Towns. Strong Towns is an advocacy organization dedicated to building better communities. Strong Towns, the people in this room, particularly mayor and council and senior staff, it's important that we have a way of operating. This is what Strong Towns, go to the third point. Actions to elevate the local government as the highest level of collaboration for people working together, not merely the lowest level in a hierarchy of governments. One of the things that's obviously forefront here is the local government that we all provide together as a team is the one that's often the last to know everything that's going on. This Strong Towns organization is helping to put that into clear focus. Going back to the Downtown Index for a moment, talking about our strengths and opportunities, is we know that our pedestrian traffic during the day is growing huge, and so is our vehicular traffic. The Kings Highway Connecting Link, which is that portion of Highway 19 that runs through the town, that is our main connection to the outside world. We know that our daytime traffic is booming. Our footfall report, that's a fancy name for pedestrian traffic from Environics, tells us that there is not consistency between our nighttime traffic and our daytime traffic. So our evening traffic, and this is a pandemic related thing, evening traffic after 6 o'clock has not recovered. And that's not just a Tillsonburg thing, that's the thing in general terms. Curtailed retail hours, there's 4 reasons why this is the case. Curtailed retail hours from restaurants and other businesses, particularly the ones that are small, 1 or 2 employee businesses. Because they're not open past 4 or 5 o'clock, there's reduced traffic. Third, this is a serious one that needs effort. A lack of available cultural options in the downtown at night. So a lot of downtowns, for example, in larger centers, they have their movie theaters are downtown, their live theaters are downtown. We don't have that. That is a problem. Small businesses, this is probably the most important point. Small businesses are still recovering from the pandemic and have limited staffing resources. Now, I can tell you that more than half of our businesses downtown are a 1 or 2 person entity, and they simply are maxed out. They just don't have the capacity to extend their hours of operation. And the other point here, which ties into things like Station View, is the lack of housing in the downtown area is an issue, and where most development is occurring outside the downtown. So there are some other communities a little bit larger than Tillsonburg. The one I'm most familiar with is Ithaca, New York. They have developed a housing strategic plan for the downtown, and it is working very, very well. So now that we've talked about these challenges, what are we going to do about it? So first of all, we need to plan and operate more events while assisting others to increase their impacts. And I talked about the Christmas parade and why that's important. For council and us working together is to plan improvements to infrastructure to facilitate a larger farmers market, televised events downtown, which we'll talk about. And that's why things like, elements of the Bridge Street reimagination over time need to be implemented so we can do some of these things. Implementation of a housing strategic plan, that's something we need to work on. And I think the Station View is an excellent example of things that will be attracting people and attracting traffic to the downtown. And lastly, it's imperative for us, so what our marketing team is charged with is to program spaces and spaces in places like the mall on evenings and weekends. And I'm going to give you 3 examples here. You can go to the first slide if you don't mind. This is a great example. This is downtown Edmonton BIA. And those of you who are aware that the Edmonton Oilers play here, so their actual downtown Edmonton BIA is where the ice district is. All they did here is create a public plaza as part of this development. And here's an example of even when the Oilers play, Oilers don't play, they're out of town, they'll play the game here, or they do other activities here. You can see all the people that are there. Next slide, please. Closer to home in Eastern Ontario, this is the center left of your screen is the City Hall in Kingston, Ontario. They're downtown Kingston BIA. All they did is bought this movie screen or digital screen that they put up. And you can see the hundreds of people that come here. They do this several nights a week in the summertime. And it's a simple thing. You need a public space to be able to do it. Work it from your own. And then the rest of us, the next slide is in downtown Kitchener, much closer to home. Those of you who went on the tour with us a year ago in August, this is a vacant piece of municipal land, downtown Kitchener. I went to high school about a block from here. And they just took it and they turned it into an outdoor music venue. It's called Vogel San Green. Those of you, there's a picture of during the day, and then there's a picture of at night. It's got that beautiful lighting that's on there. And between the city of Kitchener and the BIA, they've programmed that space with $250,000 of entertainment, live free music, and it helps the restaurant business downtown. So those are examples of what activations are. Slide. So what are activations? I use that word a lot. Well, that's basically when you take something and you do something with it. The best example I can give you is there's a temporary activation and then there's a permanent one. The temporary, greatest example of that is Turtle Fest. So we take the road between Bridge Street down to Baldwin, Oxford. We close the street. We repurpose it from being a vehicle route, mainly. We turn that into a space that's been activated. So with entertainment, with music, with food, those sorts of things. That's the best way of explaining this. We did during the pandemic was the enhancement of the space, which we will continue to do. One of the best things that everyone in this room should feel good about, I'll tell you one little story here quickly, is I was sitting at the patio at Nectar one day by myself, and there was a couple behind me who had recently moved from Kitchener. And obviously they had no idea who I was because they're just new residents in town. But anyway, they said Tillsonburg is like a hallmark community. And they said they should have moved here years ago. So that's not a credit towards us. That's a credit towards everybody in this room. So activations are absolutely critical. Activations are also economic development. We have a great relationship with the development department and the economic development department through CEPAS. And we believe very strongly, as I remind my team all the time, that we have economic development in everything that we do as a BIA. These 6 bucket here, we will further develop our co-working space because it's working and it's helped get new businesses started and are growing and they're moving on to taking over renting of spaces downtown. We had a great experiment this year that we are managing our social media channels for Tillsonburg Town Center. I'm happy to report last week we had another meeting and that contract is going to be enhanced to $1,000 a month starting in January. And we'll be actually testing Google Ads with them. We're going to continue to leverage our marketing programs. We had a great pub chamois event last year. We were able to provide a free taxi ride home for everybody who participated that night because we had 3 people that helped pay for the cost of that. We're continuing to get revenue outside of the levy. We want to tweak the facade improvement program to better meet the challenges we're seeing right now with the unhoused and social issues. That mainly is around back alleys, security, and lighting. And as you have an asset management plan with the town, so do we. We want to make sure that we're renewing our street assets so they look professional, presentable. We're going to repair them where feasible, replace as needed, and we obviously need to consider the life cycle like council does with all the projects. It's important to talk about, flipping pages here, about our legislative requirements of the BIA under the Municipal Act, and this is very important. We're the only board that's a body corporate according to the Municipal Act. We have the same procedures and protocols as council. We're mandated to use the town of Tillsonburg auditor with audited financial statements following PSAB guidelines, and we have detailed reports to management. Our borrowing authority is clearly defined under the Act, not just under the Municipal Act, but the County of Oxford Restructuring Act of 1975. Our board members are subject to the code of conduct. We have an annual reporting requirement. I was here back in September for that, and our budget approval follows a 3-part process. Looking at our current fiscal year 2024, we have high debt payments, and I spoke about that back in September. We've had careful, cautious spending. We're going to continue to focus on generating money outside of the levy. And as of today, we have a couple of grant applications that are due December the 19th, so we're working on those. All those together right now is about $84,000. We will have a significant full-year operating surplus. The first year that we'll actually have a payment from Turtle Fest to the BIA. That's never happened before. And that's to help compensate us for our contributions. Successful grants, very successful this year. We will have no bad debts or write-offs this year, which is good news. We'll be fully compliant with all of the audit guidelines. Turning the page to 2025, a 2% decrease in our total levy. That is 2025 budget versus 2024 budget, followed by a 5% decrease in fiscal year 2026. Continued shift to reliance on non-levy revenues, a 0 FIP contribution for 2 years in a row, a $20,000 town capital contribution, which is a 0 increase from the previous year, significant debt reduction, establishment of reserves, investment in our people and systems, a capital plan that is relevant and timely, and a continued profitable and growing incubation center. By adopting the 2025 plan, that leads to financial stability to allow me and our team of professionals to make sure that we're managing our financial metrics for the long-term health of the BIA. We have long-term cash flow planning. Renato and Shane and the entire finance team have been very helpful in sharing their practices and spreadsheets with us, and we continue to update those on a regular basis. Long-term cash flow planning is important. Elimination of debt. The Board of Management has been very supportive of elimination of all the debt. And I think that is very, very important. Self-financing of capital expenditures is critical. And the last 3 points is ensuring we need to have reserves. And our goal is to have $100,000 in reserves by the end of 2030. Ted Lyons, who's the revenue manager, he's done a stellar job. I've let Renato and Shane know that. He's gone through the assessment file. There were errors and omissions with the file. And he's done a fantastic job getting those resolved. And we'll continue to leverage the BIA cost structure by having a measured expansion of the BIA zone. We don't have reserves. We're going to plan for those. We're going to have plan for our future expenses, creating another cushion in case there is any potential disruption moving forward. We'll have to see what the Trump tariffs and things like that do and that has an effect on the economy. And the last 3 points, elimination of debt. Move to the next slide. Elimination of debt. is absolutely essential because it provides more financial freedom and flexibility. So really quick, when our board says, yes, I want to vote money, we have to pass a resolution, it goes to the clerk takes it to Renato and Shane and Renato have to prepare a report. It goes to council says yes, then council has to prepare a report, it goes to the county of Oxford, the county of Oxford says yes, you can have the money. If we can eliminate that, it eliminates a whole lot of expense and a whole lot of time. So that's the way we're going. It's also, you have no debt. It means that the levy increases will be more reflective of inflation, and reserves will allow the absorption of any tax adjustments without the need to raise the levy. Now the exciting part, marketing and events and activations. I couldn't ask for a better team in our marketing department. They do a stellar job under the leadership of Vanessa Fortner and Naomi Dubé. We're going to test Turtle Fest under the umbrella of the BIA for 1 year. We're introducing Downtown Tillsonburg Television, which will be focused on a YouTube channel. We're really excited about that. We've got some grant money that will apply to help us with that. A comprehensive media plan is in development with the proposed new owner of Country 107.3 and Easy 101, pending CRTC approval. Turtle Fest, really quickly, I shared this with you that there was over 30,000 person visits for Turtle Fest, and our metrics for Facebook were off the charts. And it's not just Turtle Fest, all the events we've done, they all attract significant traffic to the downtown. And particularly at Halloween, we're now approaching, quite honestly, amazing metrics for the town center mall, where it's going to be approaching 2 million person visits in one fiscal year. That's almost unheard of, so it's working. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the importance of Turtle Fest on the next slide. It's our signature event. There is no admission. It means everybody, any economic class, anybody can afford. There's free hot dogs and water and so on. It's phenomenal. It's the busiest day of the year for our restaurants in town. It showcases Tillsonburg. It's necessary to have year-round organizational resources, no different than Norfolk County Fair or anything that's a significant contributor. Is Norfolk County Fair is a 10-day event with full-time staff. I'm not suggesting the 5 full-time staff, but we're there as a permanent organizational resource. Relying on volunteers ends up with turnover, and there's issues with that. And as Kay Matthews, I showed you the video last year, is our community festivals in Ontario are managed and operated by BIAs, about 60% of them. I don't think we can get to the video, so I'll show through these pictures. These are 3 pictures taken at various points in time on Saturday, June 15th. You'll see the people shoulder to shoulder, the VIP area in the middle, and then this is one of the patios downtown shortly after when it's starting to get dark outside, but it's just a huge part of our success. I don't think the video is good. That's okay. We'll move on. The Business Incubation Center, or the co-working space, it's working really well. We want to continue to do this. A couple of quick highlights. During 2023 fiscal year, our co-working space revenue was up 201%. It's up another 20 this year. We think that has some real merit, because it basically delivers in an office environment for the BIA at 0 cost. And it's working really well. Next slide. Our human resources plan, everything we do, we couldn't do without the people of the BIA. We have an amazing team from our board under the leadership of Councillor Parsons, right through to our staff and all of our board members. So our job here is we want to continue to invest in our people to deliver a great organization. We want to continue to benchmark ourselves versus other organizations, ensuring a safe, productive environment, pivoting our team. And what I mean by this is our members don't care who's working in the office. All they care about are the streets clean, are there activities. That's where we need to be. And most importantly, we want to continue policy development, which will support having a successful organization. There are a number of outstanding items here. I'm not going to go through each one of these, but the one I would like to highlight for our staff and council, quite honestly, is the 3rd one from the bottom. The safety and security issues with the unhoused is at an epidemic level. I had nothing but an earful all weekend long. They had to call the police multiple times with multiple people sleeping in the bank enclosures. And this morning when I went to work, these people sleeping, and they're making such a mess, and there is a cost attached to this, and we just need some help. So that's for council's consideration. Next slide. I want to talk a little bit about our team, and I'm almost finished. This is our 4-quadrant team, our operations team. These are the people that keep downtown sparkly. I want to read their names because they are all stellar at what they do. Jim Armstrong, Mason Smith, Minnie Nelson, Mark Palmer, Phil Kirby, Rick Ryan and Jordan LaPlante. Those guys and team are phenomenal. We have a special projects lead who works on an hourly basis. She writes grant applications and does other things. She's phenomenal. Olivia Taylor, she's currently working on her Master's of Education. Our marketing team I talked about, they're just phenomenal and do a great job. And then I call it the administration and compliance team, which is myself, our bookkeeper, Brodzinski, and of course Whitney Dean, who is the auditor of record. In summary, our plan centers on very specific tactics that will support a resilient organization. And that's important so that we can deliver programs and positive member impacts. Providing measurable, effective initiatives and programs. We're learning all the time how to make those better. A financial plan for excellence, investing in our people, planning and execution of proven marketing initiatives, including successful Turtle Fest, supporting our stakeholders. And it's really super important here that I take a minute to thank all of the people from the town of Tillsonburg, the senior leadership team, all the employees and council. You've been very, very supportive of us, which we really appreciate. The Tillsonburg Town Center, it's 50% of our levy. We have a very, very good working relationship with them. And there's exciting things coming to the Town Center Mall next year. And lastly, Station View. It'll be the largest generational investment ever made in the downtown since 1980 when the mall was built. So it's going to be a sea change. It's going to help the downtown. Continuing to have a sparkly downtown environment obviously is critical. All you need to do is talk to any real estate person who will tell you, and there's some real estate people in the room, I think, is that people choose Tillsonburg because of what the downtown looks like and how clean it is and all. If that's really that important. We again mentioned, thank you to CFUS for all his effort and support. Economic development is in everything that we do downtown. And lastly, but not least, it is our job to make sure that we're fully compliant with everything we do, whether it's the Municipal Act, it's PSAB, it's our new constitution. We have to make sure that we meet all of those requirements. And with that, Madam Mayor, I'll be more than happy to take any questions, comments, or suggestions.
Thank you all from the part of council. There are questions to the presentation. Councillor Spencer?
Through the chair to the executive director, when you talked about the issues with unhoused, and I feel like I've gotten an answer on this before, but I can't remember, and I'd like clarification. Why do banks not have access to entry? Like I remember at one point you had to put in a debit card to get into the access area for a debit machine. Why do they still not have that to stop?
Because all the unhoused people have debit cards. Essentially, that's why.
Oh,
So what happened, I asked the same question. So what happens is they all have to have a registered fixed address. So a lot of them use the multi-service center, the Livingston Center as their fixed address. That's their banking address.
right.
They all have cards. So even if they had card locks, they'd still be able to get in there anyway. The solution becomes, and if I talk to the 6 branch managers, which I do on a regular basis, they'll tell you is they're getting a lot of customer negativity because if they put their doors on lockdown, right, and people can't access their money, that's problematic. And if people have to drive somewhere to use another machine, for example, at a gas station, which there are, I think, 3 or 4 ATMs at gas stations, they have to reimburse the people those fees. So there are reasons why some, like First Ontario, they're locked automatically at a certain time of the night where you can't get in there. The others, it's a manual process. Because of technology, so Garda, they pay someone to come in who's bonded to come in and lock the doors. So it's not an easy situation, but I think it's more of anything, Councillor Spencer, and it's a great question. It's a failing of our society that we aren't able to deal with this issue, quite honestly. And I'm certainly not laying the blame here. I don't think the blame is in this room. I think that there's things that could be done. They need a warm place. I mean, I feel we as humans, they can't be dehumanized.
Right. If I could continue, I know, because I've seen them, police walking the downtown area during the day. Do you know if there's patrol in the evening as well?
Thank you for the question. So we have asked, and the OPP have been very, very supportive, as has the Police Services Board, and I think Councillor Rosehart would know. They do beat patrol, foot patrol on a regular basis. I don't know personally if they do it at nighttime, but I do see them doing it 7 days a week. They're in the mall, they're on the street, and usually 2 or 3 of them, so. It does work, but I don't know that it's they're necessarily their job to police the bank machine enclosures, and that could be a full-time job for one person, I presume.
And just finally, more of a comment, I'm glad to see Turtle Fest under the VIA from what I've been involved in through the years, whether it's as a business or with council. It seems like you guys do a lot of work, so I think this might be an effective tool to at least try. So thank you for the presentation.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Mark, you mentioned earlier in your presentation about having a membership with small towns, quote unquote, small towns. Can you maybe elaborate on that? Is that an advocacy group that could go to one of the ministries and ask for help? How large a group is it? Who recognizes small towns?
Strong Towns. Yeah,
Strong
so
Towns, I'm sorry.
it is relatively new in Canada. They're an American-based organization, but they're not political. Their job, the great question. We are probably one of the first members in Ontario, in this part of Ontario, and it's a low-cost membership. It's like $10 a year, $20 a year. They perform very similar to what the Tillsonburg District Chamber of Commerce does, which is to advocate for issues. The biggest thing I think the mayor and I have talked about this several times, and staff, is we need to change so we need to have a paradigm shift. We need to have it so that the municipality is on top and the federal government's on the bottom. And right now, it's because of bad policy choices that we're ending up with a lot of these issues. Strong Towns is all about they having safe and livable cities. Isn't that what we all want? And I think I can provide council with more information, but their gatherings are a lot cheaper. Their educational materials are almost always free. To me, it sounds like it's a much better deal than dealing with some of the other organizations.
Thank you.
Councilor Parsons.
Thank you, Your Worship, through Your Worship. As you may know, tonight is a budget meeting. We're looking, this council's looking to try to pare down our budget, something we can deliver to the community that the community can afford and we think is reasonable. You mentioned that there's a $20,000 capital grant that does not represent an increase over last year. But if it happened to be one of the things we have to look at, what is the impact of that grant, should that not be available?
Thank you for the question. I think, well, there's 3 options. One is we could just deal with a cut and pass things off to a future year. We could try and go find more money, or we would have to cut certain things. I would not recommend that, or we could go back to the board and say, we still need this $20,000. We don't want to have any more debt either. So I think we would end up cutting some things that would show themselves. If we're still getting the amount of things that have been damaged because of the unhoused situation, we need to be replacing those things that are missing or things that are broken. So I think it would be visible that you can see those things, not.
Any further questions from council to the presenter? Seeing none, I have one. There's a resolution with regards to the budget and business plan. Number 11, it says a non-cash transaction to transfer the remaining facade improvement program deficit in the amount of $69,855 to the general fund. Could you expand on that, please?
Yes, so during the time of the pandemic, from about March of 2020, there was a deficit was created in the facade improvement program. Up to this point, what we have done is all of the current facade improvement monies that are flowing through are being consumed within the overall budget of the VIA. So even though there's not that 140,000 or 70,000 last year or 70,000 going forward, the remaining FIP projects will continue to be funded. VIA. What that residual amount is the difference between what the deficit was created in 2023, I think financial statement, no contribution in 2024 this year, and no contribution next year. So it's basically the difference between.
Okay, like, so basically some of the facade improvement money was used
Yes, for cash
to
flow
help
purposes.
for cash flow purposes. Was that not restricted funds?
Yes, so one of the things that Whitney Dean identified in the audit is that we have.
Thank you. The other thing I just want to clarify that, number two, it says an expansion levy of 19,258, that is included in the 239,951.
It is, but the budget resolution that you have tonight does not include that.
And there's a special levy amount, which is in the levy of $12,886, comprised of legal fees and other extraordinary items. Are those items and legal fees from 2024, or is it contingency for 2025?
No, those are historical costs. Those are not anything from 2024. Those are things, so for example, when I wrote a report to the board about the actual legal fees incurred, it was actually significantly more than what the $21,000 loan forgiveness was of the town. It was around 26,000. There were another orphan items, as I would call them, from the previous year, things that did get paid, and rather than penalize the budget or penalize the programs in place, that's where those come from. You will see, if I refer to once we move out of 2025 into 26, 27, 2029, that amount becomes zero. And we should not be having any of those ever again. Those are one-time off items.
Thank you. And one final question would be though, should something arise during the year, is there a contingency fund for legal in your budget?
Yeah, so what the board asked me to do when we presented the budget is we did make, going forward, again, we're still learning, and my position is that if you look under the general administrator, we do allocate funds in there from a historical basis. Not that we're expecting any, because that's the last thing that we need, is that paying lawyers is paying them. But yes, so in going forward is from historical, we dug ourselves out of a hole. I think I alluded to last year, I don't want to get into all the details, but the VI levy dropped by 24% for 1 year because of tax adjustments. And that's really where we started to fall off. So once the pandemic happened, the board cut the budget every month, and then there was a huge tax adjustment of $26,000. We got ourselves into an issue. So I don't foresee any more negative impacts moving forward.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation and for all the work that you do downtown. Also, are you aware of the recent announcement you had referred to? The challenges regarding homeless, you're aware of the recent announcement by the provincial government?
Yes.
Okay. There will be many meetings going on to one on Thursday. There will be major changes.
I just want to say thank you to Councillor Rosart and Council and the Mayor for your role on the Police Services Board for working with OPP staff to get us the foot patrol. It does make a significant difference.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much. Councilor Parsons, you have a resolution.
Your worship, moved by Parsons, second by Deputy Mayor Barron. The 2025 Business Improvement Area Budget Submission be received as information. And B, that the information is included within the BIA budget submission be deferred to budget deliberations agenda, item 7.1.2. Thank you.
I will open the floor for discussion, or should you seek clarification from town staff? All those in favor? Carried. Next, we move to staff report, 7.1, 2025. Capital levy review. From the report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to council. Overall, staff took a look at the impact to the capital program, should there be a change in the funding plan for 2025. We deemed that that when taking a look at the asset management plan that identified that the town is currently at about a $5.7 million deficit. That's when we mean deficit, it's not necessarily the backlog of work that needs to be done. That's the annual amount of capital contribution to the program. And so with those are 2023 figures. When we incorporated the 2024 increase to the capital levy and the budget of 2025, that would reduce this annual capital requirement deficit from 5.7 to 4.5 million. But then we took a look at the fact that even having such a deficit has implications. And the implications is that what it means is that the town is not able to set aside enough money to maintain the existing assets that the town owns to the level of maintaining the existing service level. And so to delay the funding to be able to shorten that gap of the 4.5 million, we don't feel that that's a prudent course of action, and therefore we are recommending that the budget amount of 622,761 as per the council resolution being 3% of dedicated capital levy for 2025 remain at that level.
Council have questions regarding the report? Seeing none, Deputy Mayor.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Parsons, that the report finance 24-059 titled 2025 Capital Funding Plan Review be received as information, and part B, that the 2025 capital levy remain at the budgeted amount of $622,761.
Is there any discussion regarding the report? I'll certainly be supporting this because I think we need to stay on track with the capital plan, because we have a lot of infrastructure to fix up, so I appreciated the report. It was very informative. No further discussion. All those in favor? That would be carried. Next, we are moving to item 7.1.3, community health care.
Absolutely, Madam Mayor. 7.12 is going to be the first one there in the budget. Thank you. So no new information here for council. You guys received this at the last council meeting. We were asked to combine into reports regarding the healthcare and the financial impact. So you had that in front of you for your consideration in the budget session.
I'll open the floor to council.
Well,
For any questions, Deputy Mayor?
I'm sorry, you want questions? I don't have questions, I have comments.
Well, then we'll reserve that for the motion.
Thank you.
Is there any questions from council? I have a question. What's going to be left in the reserve for physician incentives?
So through the chair, I can answer that one, or not, or you can chime in afterwards if you want. So it depends what you do is the answer here. If you go with just the recruitment coordinator, there's approximately, I believe, I'm gonna find the facts here, about 58,000 left. And what you're gonna have is $35,000 coming from the levy for physician recruitment and $35,000 coming from the reserve this year. So at the end, there's about $58,000, 677. But if you go ahead and do the walk-in clinic, you're depleting that, you have nothing left. You're going to the general levy for approximately 151 or 141, sorry. Okay.
Okay, just to clarify, there would be like zero, that 151 is required to fund the entire walk-in clinic plus the 58,000. So there'd be zero left in there for physician incentives.
If you went ahead and did the walk-in clinic, yes. Renato, am I correct on that?
Just to confirm, yes, in the 2025 budget, if all of the proposed resolutions are approved, the town would be funding the walk-in clinic to the cost of 200,000, 58,677 from reserve, and the 141 from the levy. It would be funding also the physician recruitment position of 63,812 would be our share. Both of those from the reserve. And the physician recruitment costs, the matrix, as was referred to 70,000. 35,000 from the reserve, 35,000 from the levy is what is the annual amount. In the previous report, what we said is if all that is approved and if all that is spent in 25, then there'd be no money left in the reserve in 26. Or 26.
Okay, so in that case, then it would leave a couple, like contribution to Discovery Week would also be left unfunded as well, right? Because if there's not, the Discovery Week money came from the reserve as well. And so then if there's $0 in the reserve, then that would be left unfunded as well.
Take that one.
Yes, Madam Mayor, you are correct. There would be no money directly allocated for that. Finance, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the past, what we've done is we put that against the physician recruitment monies. So the 35 coming out of reserve, the 35 going to levy for the physician, for the matrix, it gets put towards that, correct?
Yes, the only other thing that is in the budget is $250, I believe it was student, medical student, lunch with the mayor. That was about $250. That's the only other thing that's budgeted for.
Yeah, that's the Discovery Week. Council funds both these items, and there's nothing actually for the matrix, essentially. So we'd have a healthcare recruiter, but wouldn't have any tools to recruit.
Madam Mayor, so just two items there. So that $250, which is the week you're talking about,
Mhm.
that has been put towards the physician recruitment reserve, correct? And or the matrix money.
No, that has a separate line item in the budget.
So for the mayor, to answer your question, has that been budgeted in 2025?
Yes.
Okay, so we got
That's fine.
some money that's funded. And then your question regarding the matrix, in 2025, we have $35,000 coming from the general levy and $35 coming from reserve. After this year, you would have nothing left in reserve, so you have 70 to use this year.
I'd like council funds. If council funds the clinic and funds the recruiter, can we support the matrix?
Pretty much, Mayor, yes, for 25, yes, for 26,
No.
there will only be 35,000, there wouldn't be the contribution from reserve, so there will be the 35,000 on the levy. The council then wishes to go up to the 70, that would be an increase to the levy of another 35,000.
This still has to go to the hospital yet. We haven't got confirmation that they're moving forward with finding the recruiter.
Budget to economy, perhaps, I believe that came through, the correspondence, did it not?
And then that I believe it was, once council is confirmed, they would contribute the half, then they would start looking for a position recruiter. I just have a question through the chair to the CAO or to, what is the amount that we set aside for a position for an incentive package?
Approximately 35K.
And so the town, according to this, needs about 10 positions. So even if we had some money in there, say 30,000, that would only cover one position.
Generally, yes, it depends, they're coming out of province, they're in province, depends what part of the matrix they're going to dab into, but generally 35 is for one, correct?
Okay. And I think I'm correct, but if I could confirm, with the new OHT models, there's no incentive packages for that. That's a model unto itself. That doesn't require incentive. Is that correct?
I'm not aware of anything outside of what we're offering at the town of Tillsonburg.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions? Councillor Carr, please.
Yeah, just, maybe drilling down a bit into the mechanics of this and not so much at the recruiter level, but in item J, the funding the temporary walk-in clinic, and I think the goal is to have something that's not temporary. And then in item B, that further partnerships be explored with other municipalities. My question is this, in that we know that there's very close to 2,000 Tillsonburg ratepayers that are not represented by, or don't have access to a doctor locally. And the idea of a walk-in clinic is to try to alleviate some of that pressure to get to clinics and health teams. And yet Tillsonburg at this point, along with the hospital, is going to be the principal funders. How does it work when Tillsonburg ratepayers might be in this resolution might be funding this, and yet residents come from other jurisdictions to use the facility where their municipality may not have contributed the funding, if you know what I mean there? It's sort of like we look at with our Parks and Recreation, as we have a local fee and external fees and things like that. Has anyone got to that point further down the thought process? How we deal with people? I mean, we really have to make this available for our Tillsonburg residents is what I'm focused on. Thank you.
I think that's an excellent question. Can we answer it? Can we answer the question if we're privately funding this? Because healthcare is regional, right? Like we take in, I would suggest the number is much greater than 2,000. But we take in a very large region because like I'm getting calls from Norfolk Bay and all over the place regarding healthcare. I'm not sure, can we restrict it to Tillsonburg residents only?
If it's our funding.
Yeah. So I think it's an excellent point, but I don't know the answer. It appears staff doesn't know the answer, so maybe it's going to be an exploratory process. Councillor Spencer?
I just wanted to comment that I think that's an excellent point. It could be something we ask the committee to look into before making or to add on to this information. It will be in the hospital and taking pressure off of our hospital emerge. And we certainly can't only take Tillsonburg hospital emerge patients. So I don't, just from my experience, I don't know if you can do that. But it'd be certainly something to ask the OHT, the Ontario Health team that's going to be organizing this.
Supplement question. So just supplementary and not directly related to my last question, but this concern that I have that I think we all share with people in our community that do not have access to a doctor and need this, whatever the cost of this is, and maybe I'm hearing we don't have money in 2026 and so on, but whatever this cost is, I think it's probably the greatest single thing that we can do as a municipal council is to provide access to health teams, walk-in clinics, whatever. There was an alarming statistic on the CBC
Is
today.
there a question? Because we're still in the questions, we don't have a resolution on the floor.
Okay, I'll wait and I'll come back with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Pepper.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Rosehart, that report CAO 24-028 titled Community Healthcare Committee Recommendations be received as information. That council approve the recommendation of the Community Healthcare Committee as follows. A, that the shared costs be included in the 2025 budget deliberations for the hiring of a new healthcare professional recruitment coordinator. That further partnerships be explored with other municipalities and organizations to further jointly fund the role and or give the ability to expand the role. C, that the town of staff be directed to create a marketing and communications plan targeted at recruiting healthcare professionals to the town of Tillsonburg. D, that the physician recruitment matrix remain unchanged. E, that the town continues to support the annual Western University Discovery Week activities. F, that the town continues to build relationships with existing physicians and other healthcare providers. G, that the town continues to support the Oxford OHT and the Primary Care Network in their efforts to start up a temporary clinic within Tillsonburg for unrostered patients while supporting advocating efforts for funding to expand primary care locally into team-based care. And H, that part of the remainder of the funds in the physician recruitment reserve for 2024 in the amount of $2,062.08, subject to no additional physicians being eligible for funding in 2024, be used towards purchasing swag for further enhanced recruitment efforts. I, that the remainder of the funds in the physician recruitment reserve for 2024 in the amount of $58,677, subject to no additional physicians being eligible for funding in 2024, be used towards supporting the opening of a temporary walk-in clinic. And J, that $141,323 be requested as part of the 2025 budget deliberations to fund the remainder of the temporary walk-in clinic.
Comments regarding the resolution?
Yeah.
Councillor
Thank you, thank you, worship. So, as I was saying, I can't think of anything more important than trying to help out in this need for all the residents of Tillsonburg that, the term is unrostered, I see in this report. And that, you know, what I was referring to, a CBC report today that the average citizen in, and I think it was Canada, not just Ontario, is waiting on average 30 weeks to see a specialist once a doctor has seen them. And another, on average, 15 weeks to actually get treatment from a specialist. And, you know, people need that type of support. I don't know if it's going to come through a walk-in clinic, and I don't know what we're going to do to attract doctors other than what this report says, because it's a problem all across Ontario, you know, and we see our doctors locally on the horizon of retirements. And certainly I support this resolution. I think walk-in clinics is probably the way to go. And I think we got to continue to support it. We'll have to find the funding. I did have a thought about funding. I think if we let the community know that this is so important, that we need funds, that people can support this privately. They can bequeath money when they pass on, as they bequeath money to all kinds of other things they might leave money to in the community, right? So it could be something that could be eligible to private donations, perhaps, I don't know. But at any rate, I'm supporting the resolution. It's a problem, and I don't think any of us really have the solution. But we need to get going forward to support the ratepayers in Tillsonburg that do not have a doctor. Thank you.
And Councillor Parker, and then Councillor Lucian.
Mayor Gilbazzi, similar comments to Councillor Parsons. This is something that is desperately needed in our community. It's unfortunate that the municipality has to go the route of funding this. The funding should actually be coming from the province and trickling down from the federal government. This is across all levels of government. We don't collect taxes for stuff like this, but we're going to be taking this on ourselves. And I do think that it's a good thing because we do need it in our municipality, but all levels of government need to be responsible for this and make sure that there are the proper amount of doctors in our province and our country, because this is a problem right across the country right now. And I don't have a solution for it, but if we could put some funds towards it, I am supportive of this. And going into 2026, if we need to go down that road, then we have to look at it at that point. But this is something that is desperately needed in our community. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lucian.
Through Mayor, just a comment, and maybe, I don't know who can maybe answer my question to this, is that the building on what Councillor Parsons said, we do supply health services as a hub here in Tillsonburg. I guess my question would be, have we approached the surrounding communities as far as townships or counties, as far as some chip in, as far as trying to deal with it? Like, we're gonna be short, say 35 out of having nothing in our reserve in 2026. is it possible that, our remaining, our surrounding, communities may be approached to possibly kick in for that?
I'd suggest maybe that, council could put a subsequent motion on the floor. Highlighted, things that were expressed. Any further comments regarding this resolution?
If I can just make a comment on this, right? We're talking about not having reserves left. This, to me, is a kickstart. If we do nothing, nothing will happen. I can see where if we get involved in this, because basically what we're doing, we're essentially, we're providing housing and just sort of a nucleus to get things started. We'll let the province and the trickle down from the feds for health money all fall into place. But if we sit back and do nothing and just wait, you know, it's like the bird with its mouth open, hoping somebody will drop in a worm, we've got to go get the worm is what we have to do. And this shows that sort of incentive to go and do that as a good kickstart to do. If we don't do it, nothing will happen. As far as approaching other areas, yeah, that could be very much a part of it. Or approaching people who bequeath, private businesses, people who are get involved in partnerships of some kind on this. It can happen. But the Ontario Health Teams is the new way of providing medical services as opposed to what has happened in the past, which are the family health organizations, which are great, but they're not producing the number of physicians, or at least not bringing forward the number of physicians to service the community. And this is where we have to help. And if it's through a walk-in clinic, if it's through the health team model, and that is what the province has recommended to us rather than to help buy a doctor, so to speak, which they refer to as the race to the bottom. So I'm gonna call this a kickstart, and I'm fully in favor of this the way it is, and then we'll explore other partnerships as the year goes on. Thank you.
Mr. Spencer?
Through you, Chair. Couple comments and questions. We're using the word doctor and physician, that's wonderful, but we have talked about on a committee level that we should be using primary care provider because nurse practitioners can also take the unrostered patients that are talked about. The nurse practitioner clinic in Ingersoll that this model will be after can actually have a physician at their nurse practitioner clinic, but they only take unrostered clients. And then I know that in the committee meetings, the Ontario Health Team talked about this temporary clinic, as Deputy Mayor said, as a startup to a permanent clinic, hoping to show that initiative to get the permanent funding, which we know we've asked several times for a sister nurse practitioner clinic of the Ingersoll model. My question would be, can we do a letter or social media advertisement for potential donors, keeping this in the budget? But then if, you know, like a couple council members have talked about, if we get funding donations, that could be used before, but or towards that amount, and then the rest of the remaining money can go back into the reserve. Just wondering if this could be done on behalf of the staff as well as the healthcare committee or council and the healthcare committee to put it out there to various organizations or out to the community through newspaper, radio, and social media. Is that something that can be done?
Madam Mayor, so it could be done if council directs us. My question would be to the Director of Corporate Services Overseas Communications, if staff could fit that in.
Through the mayor and council members to the CAO's question. Note also item C already has that staff be directed to create a marketing and communications plan targeting and recruiting healthcare professionals to the town of Tillsonburg. Having not been at the committee, I don't know exactly what that clause initiates. We haven't presupposed and added additional funds to the advertising budget for 2025, and this item is not included in our current work plan. However, we take the direction of council, just knowing that item is there, but I don't understand, I don't know what the context of it was.
Um, I was there just to clarify, that's separate than the clinic. That was to kind of work with like Tourism Oxford to make a package of why Tillsonburg is so beautiful and why primary health care providers should be here in Tillsonburg. But my question was more about a letter that goes out in specifically for asking for donations towards a temporary clinic at the hospital.
Running the clinic. It's, Oxford Health Team running the clinic, and they said that in the report, they said that they were reaching out to sponsors, correct? I think that's what I read in the report.
To sum this up, the marketing and communications, I believe, should come from the committee. We do have a healthcare committee. We have several partners in that. If we can come to conclusion, and maybe we do have to come back to council for a subsequent year, this is a budget meeting, and we can talk about a budget for another time. But, and we're getting ahead here by a year to do this, and we want to get some roots planted before we carry on to the next step.
I think it's a good point. There's still, the Ingersoll Nurse Fund application is still in with the province. And hopefully they're gonna announce a second round of funding. I think it was last year at Roma, so, hopefully we'll hear something. Any further comments regarding this resolution? The only comment I would have is, last year I know that there was an agreement regarding the recruiter, that we're ensuring that any recruitment money is spent on Tillsonburg with a placement for Tillsonburg with the amalgamation of the hospitals. I don't know. I know that it's pending with the government, but just to ensure that the dollars that we're spending are staying in, for a physician or primary care provider in Tillsonburg.
Through the chair, Madam Mayor, so clause B, that further partnerships be explored with other municipalities and organizations to further jointly fund the role and or give the ability to expand the role. That's referring to the healthcare professional recruitment coordinator. The mayor is exactly right. So last year there was discussion that the two hospitals are together, and with Ingersoll be funding some, and I believe the CEO of the hospital went there. They're not going to be funding some. It was to further explore those opportunities. And the committee did say, through council, you guys want to make it explicitly clear here that, hey, this is for Tillsonburg, not part of the community, since we're paying them. Yeah.
Thank you for, through the worship, the CAO. So, that sounds good. Does this say that? How do we make sure that we do what you just said?
You can ask for an amendment to the motion.
In what clause would we put that, in clause B or
JK.
JK?
Okay.
Or go to K rather, now. Good. Through your worship, could the clerk help me with some wording to try to, put a clause in there that the funding or the monies provided,
Well, you could do it as an amendment, we can separate it, and we can vote on the amendment,
Okay.
and then it'll be added back to this original motion. So if you have a mover and a seconder for an amendment, we'll do that first. You're gonna do a friendly amendment?
Yeah, that, K, that the funds for the healthcare professional recruitment coordinator be for a Tillsonburg specific primary care physician. Is that what we were looking at? For wording, yeah. Or for a Tillsonburg specific recruiter.
yeah, which could include health team, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll get the clerk in a minute.
that we're looking for, and for in case that the agreement for the funds for the business, sorry, I can't remember the title of it. The healthcare professional recruitment coordinator, be specific for a Tillsonburg recruit.
Recruitment.
Tillsonburg specific recruitment.
Recruitment.
Stanley friendly amendment, the addition of K and remove the secondary for both funds. Are there any further questions or comments to the resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Next, we move to item 7.1.4. The innovation and strategic initiatives on long-term this over to CAM.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So in the request from council to look at various items in the budget, one of the items was staffing. So we tasked some of the directors to look at some of their positions and what we can do in that respect, particularly ones that were currently vacant. This is one in my portfolio that is currently vacant. Council did pass a resolution for a 2-year contract. As noted in the report, that individual did fill another position on a full-time basis. So there's probably approximately 13 months still available under that council resolution. With that being said, we talked to the person who filled that position. We also talked to the development commissioner who was requesting a part-time position for 3 years, and I asked the development commissioner for some higher level items that this position could do. So there's a list in the report of the proposed projects for this individual. It was determined by the team that this position is still needed to complete some items in the strategic plan. But talking to the person who filled the position, it was determined that a manager role was probably more suitable for this. So we did some analysis around that, subject to the evaluation by the manager of human resources. But if we put it to a manager position, there is some cost savings there, of course, the director, and then of course the has to be more manager based. And we are asking council to make this a full-time position rather than a contract position. And the reason for that is we would like to go to market as soon as possible to fill that position. And the reality is you do get different candidates, whether it's full-time or part-time, or full-time or contract. And with contract, sometimes, people leave the position for a full-time position, so we want to be that description. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Questions from council? Councilor Spencer?
Thank you, through your chair to the CEO. So just so I'm clear, we save money because it's being taken to a manager position, about 53,000, and then the contract position of 65,000 for 3 years, that will no longer be needed. Is that correct?
Through the chair, Madam Mayor, to Councilor Spencer. So that was determined that this job is not a director level, it's a manager level, better suited for a manager level. So that's what we're proposing going forward. And in doing that, there will be savings. And of course, the economic development commissioner was requesting a 3-year contract position. In talking to that individual, we looked to see some of those higher end tasks that were strategic in nature. And if this individual could do it, and the commissioner did provide the list of those individuals. So in your list of budget revision, we are removing the 3-year contract.
Thank you.
Further questions from council? Councilor Parker?
Just seeking clarification that the manager position is for the 154,000, not a director position, correct? 154,000 for a manager position?
Correct. That's the number that finance gave me, and I'm going to look at finance to confirm that. I'm shaking my head, sir.
Further questions from council? What would be the second highest, paid, I don't want the person or the position, but director paid in the corporation? Do you know that?
Madam Mayor, top of my head, the director levels are 13s and 14s. This was rated at 13, so it would get reassessed for a manager, which I believe the managers are about 11s and 12s. So we'll get assessed on that basis. For the digital tonight, I imagine.
Who is this individual manager?
That was for the, discussion around the director. There's no direct reports to this individual. They'd be doing more project management and leading teams.
Project management as in facility projects, like the aquatics.
Chair, so one of the items we have on there is town hall project support. They could get involved in that project. Their level of ability and how much they'll play a role is to be determined, but there's, the housing, development project, grant funding, but there's a list of items there. So it would be team-based, so it would be ad hoc team-based, such as the land analysis. There was a bunch of individual, staff members that form that joint, project, if you will, and they're helping that.
There's a line item that says to represent the CAO or identified and attend various meetings and work related functions. Could you expand on that?
Is this in the job description?
Yes. One.
What line item? What point forward, I'm just want to make sure you.
Six.
To represent the CAO were identified and various meetings and work related functions. So with a lot of my direct reports, if I feel that it's better suited for them, I would send them to that and I'll go directly with this for this individual people reporting to me.
So, and this manager position falls directly under you. Okay, reserve my comments. It's not appropriate. Okay. Any further questions? Then Councilor Spencer.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Rose Hart, that report CAO 24-027 titled Permanent Full-Time Position Request, Manager of Innovation and Strategic Initiatives, be received as information, and B, that 1.0 permanent FTE Manager of Innovation and Strategic Initiatives be included in the 2025 budget. The cost of $154,000 for salary and benefits be approved.
Comments, Councilor Parsons?
A question to you, Madam Mayor, to the Director of Finance, if you can help here. We've heard the elimination of 3-year contract in dev and then put against this expense. What is the difference there? Just to be clear, what is the net difference on those two items? You have that.
Madam Mayor, the reduction in the 3-year contract was 65,000, right? From the 154 to about the difference of 89,000.
89.
Comments, Councilor Spencer?
And through you, Chair, and just to confirm, the salary of the manager level's not the 154, but 124,000, correct? And the rest is benefits?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Comments to the resolution? I'm a little bit struggling with this because we often see in government where we become managerial heavy, and like I see this position where it can maybe hire 2 frontline staff, where I feel we have shortages in other areas. We have a roads department that hasn't been adjusted since 2001 and phase 1 and 3, and it's been reduced to 1, and then now we're adding more managerial staff. So I'm a little bit conflicted about this position. It's just my comments. Any further comments? We have the resolution on the floor, so I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? And that will be carried. Next, we move to item 7.1.5. Council expense policy, any highlights to the report?
I believe the report has a lot of information, a number of resolutions from prior reports, I believe it's all there, self-explanatory.
Questions to the report? Councilor Parsons?
Now, if I could just ask, what is the difference then on the pooled amount in the report of 28,000? What that number might have been in 2024? I think they're all a bunch of different lines, I think, but, is there a way for us to know what that difference is? Thank you.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, the budget amounts in 24, 23,040, so it's the, impact of $5,000.
Thank you.
Any questions to the report? So the only question I have is if there's like a laid out amount for the mayor and councillor, but if someone goes over, then it's going to the pool fund. Is that correct or not? I need clarification on that.
No, so this would still maintain the individual limits. But if we were to fund the totality of all the limits, the budget would go to 37,000. And so historically, because not all councillors attend or utilize the amounts to varying degrees, historically, we looked at what's an amount that would fund generally, what the total year end might come in. But definitely, it does not fund every single member of council to utilize their limits fully. Again, that could be done, but based on historical, that would be generating a surplus each year. So there's still limits, but we're only budgeting for, say, 3/4 of the limits.
Mayor Gilvezi to the Director of Finance. I guess it's kind of, should we not be funding it to the full amount if people wanted to, or reducing what the targets are for each individual counselor so that we make sure that we don't reach that limit? So if we're saying that there's only $28,040 in there, shouldn't we reduce the individual limits to only spend that?
I guess the short answer will be yes, you could reduce the limits. In 2024, when the limits were put in place, they were deemed by some members to be too low. And council passed a resolution saying that some members could use other members' unused portions. And so I thought this would be a way on how to set an amount that has the limits where individuals could attend specific functions, but that we know that not all members are going to utilize it, so it's not fully budgeting for all of it.
Follow up, Mayor Gilvezi, through you to Renato. So I guess the question has to be, if council does decide to spend all of their individual budgets, what are we going to do, because it's going to be unbudgeted?
The intent would be that in the policy, it says that any unused portions at the end of the year is transferred to the council reserve. So we would use the council reserve in years when it's not fully spent, transfer into it. In years where the council overall budget would be under or in a deficit, it will be funded from that council reserve.
Thank you.
Councillor Spencer, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, through you, Chair, I was just trying to do the math in my head, but I'll just ask the Director of Finance. So the amounts provided there, in clause C, A, that comes, if you add all that up, that comes under 27,000. It would just be if everybody used all of that plus the other, like the other in item B, CB there that's written, that it would go above, and just for clarification, that would come out of a council reserve. Is that correct?
Correct, in the year that the overall council budget would go into a deficit, it would come out of the council reserve. But in a year where there is these two line items are in a surplus, that amount goes to the reserve.
Thank you.
My question through you, Mayor, is about what you call professional development sessions. I'll give you an example. If it's an inaugural year of council, council orientation, usually someone comes in, a professional, and talks to council. They do this everywhere, including Oxford County, on what we should be doing, it's orientation on proper procedures. So if there's a cost to that, would that be divided by each of the elected people and charged against their budget? When you talk about development sessions, I guess I'm asking what the definition of development session will be.
You, Madam Mayor, I would propose to council to have that further conversation, because we have discussed it internally, and right now the budget doesn't, other than there may be some other line items under orientation, related to council. But ongoing council, if you look at orientation as potentially divided up into four different years. Yes, as staff, we do agree that that shouldn't necessarily be part of each individual limit. The individual limits would be where it's an individual is going externally to, for additional training and so forth. So, but as of right now, there is nothing in the budget set for, so we say, orientation type of training that would happen throughout the term of council. And that's something that we would have to look at possibly for 26 and look at what amounts we should have in the budget for that.
And just maybe what we might do in that time, and that's not for today. At that time, we'll just look at what's commonplace within other councils and what they're doing and how things are funded. For that, it's sort of a post-education is what it is, continuing education for council.
Let's see if I'm start.
So we as councillors go to these conventions. So do we have anything written how many go at one time to the convention for 1 year? And then the next year, and then the next year? Like, do we kind of divide that out? Maybe that they shouldn't go every year? Because conventions are getting cheaper. They're getting a cost, they're very costly. And we don't get anything from the government that subsidizes.
Madam Mayor, the reason I had attached the former policy on page 113 of the PDF is because what I found is that it seems to be that the town's policy did have that. It mentions that members of council could attend one major conference and the mayor and deputy could attend two. Now, since the revisions to the existing policy, which again predate my time, that seems to have been dropped off. And I can only surmise that it's likely because by setting a limit, then that determines basically how that individual, whether they go to one or two, depending on which ones they choose.
I think the mayor should have a choice and the deputy mayor should have a choice which ones they go to. I think they're the ones that should go to most of them. They're the important ones, right? Whereas council shouldn't be going to them every year to the same meeting. They should trade off who's going to which one.
Well, follow through on there. Yeah, so we also discussed internally that, the limits can be deemed as, this is what the town will contribute towards. So if a member wishes to attend three conferences or 4 conferences, that's fine. The town will only pay up to that amount. It doesn't necessarily mean that the town should always reimburse 100%. Again, so I think, again, I was trying to reason why the former policy had that restriction and this, and the current policy doesn't. And it's probably because, again, it's just depending on which, well, FCM usually is out west. There's usually higher travel costs. If it's something that's more, more in the local area, that's not too far, it might depend just on the cost and where they want to. When they may wish to attend something that's maybe more seminar related, webinars, maybe not a conference. And so I think the limit is whatever the professional development event is, that the town will contribute up to that amount.
Any questions? So, if a counselor or mayor attends, that is that included in the 5,000? Like, so say for mayor, it's $5,000. Then that conference expense would be charged against that 5,000 or tracked in that 5,000, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Further questions? Resolution. Deputy Mayor.
Yeah. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Spencer, that the report, council expense policy and budget 2025 review be received as information in Part B. That the 2025 council budget for conferences, professional development, smart devices, supplies and internet be set at a pooled amount of $28,040, and Part C, that each council member individualized be adjusted as follows. A, 5,000 for the mayor and deputy mayor and 3,500 for each councillor for conferences and professional development sessions. And B, 120 per month each member of council for smart device, internet and supplies. And D, that, that's A and B. And then section D, that all other policy recommendations in the report finance 24-055 be included in a revised council expense policy to be brought back for council approval.
On council, Councillor Rosar.
So just a clarification, so if there's money left over and another council wants to go somewhere, you will take it out of that money that's left over to send the other council on? I'm just not clarification.
No, that resolution that allowed unused portions to go to another council, that was for 2024.
Thank you.
Any comments from council? Councilor Parker?
I just think that council as overall, we need to be careful about what conferences we're attending. This is taxpayers' money, so although representing the constituents is great, we need to be careful when we attend events. We don't need 4 councilors and the mayor and deputy mayor. We don't all need to be at the same one. I know Good Roads a couple of years ago, there were quite a few of us that attended. I think we just need to be careful and have some communication amongst ourselves to make sure that we're not over represented at one meeting and underrepresented at others. So we just need to find some balance around this chamber. And we don't all need to spend to the $3,500 or $5,000 limit that's there. It's a limit for a reason. Let's try and keep it respectful. Thank you.
Further comments from council? Deputy Mayor.
The only comment I'll make, and I sit on the Aroma board, every year they seem to be going up. So we should watch this quite regularly. Some of them, I believe the AMO conference is like a $900 registration this year. They used to be half of that, not that many years ago. They seem to be going up and up and up all the time. So we have to watch this closely now. And the only other comment I'll make, this is where our opportunity is to meet with the provincial people. I know at the Roma conference in January, of all of the provincial ministers involved, a large percentage, close to 90% of them attend that. And that's where we make appointments to go to them and talk about things like funding for healthcare and funding for infrastructure and water for our new subdivisions and that sort of thing. So these are the important things, but my point is, we have to watch those and we have to continue going to those. They're important. I don't believe we have to send everybody, but we should be represented at those things. So they're waiting. Thank you.
Thank you. I have conversed with other mayors because there has been some discussion that these conferences are getting very expensive. And are they effective when I call it like, it's like speed dating, where they're seeing 25 or 30 other municipalities. Some mayors are moving to like a Queen's Park type day, where you go and book a bunch of meetings in Toronto at Queen's Park, which I think also can be effective. So I think that there's things we can look at. Any further comments? I am struggling supporting this just because we have a very difficult budget. We're asking everybody to cut, but we've added 5,000 extra for council, or around 5,000, and I feel we should all be doing our part. That's me. Anyways, Councillor Parsons.
Your worship, I agree with you. It is difficult in a year like this, but it's not a huge increase, but for all the reasons that have been spoken about, and the fact that we have technology today that, I attended the Western Wardens Conference in Chatham. It was not far away, but great speakers. I learned a lot. I engaged. But after that conference, they sent everything out to us that we could have, other than speaking with delegates, the education part, you can do it in your office or at home. And I hope maybe you, Madam Mayor, and Deputy, through AMO and Roma and the other things you belong to, if we can try to find some ways to get a better scale of economy or to have these information and training sessions sent out to councillors without having to travel to Ottawa or some other place to see it. I do agree with all the comments that were expressed, Councillor Parker as well. We need to be very careful with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent comments. Any further comments from council? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. And then we move to item 7.1. Oh wait, 7.2. I want to say that. Okay, additional council budget motions. 7.2. Does council have any additional budget motions? Councilor Lucien.
Not too sure whether I need a motion on this or not, because it kind of relates to what has been either in the existing budget or something that's on this page has been removed, and I'm not too sure where it sits, and maybe somebody here in the SLT can give me that answer. But we did have a presentation from somebody in Southern Coghill, actually in regard to library lane and fixing the infrastructure that's there. And we did defer that to budget negotiations, and I'm not too sure whether it's actually in here or either has even been addressed. So I just don't know where that sits. So if somebody could just.
I can answer it because I asked the same question as you, the staff the other day. And there will be a report coming back. So note that we're not finalizing the budget tonight, that we are going to have a subsequent meeting the end of January, and there will be a report coming back from staff in that regard. The question, the exact same thing. Thank you very much for bringing that.
Excellent, thank you.
Councilor Spencer?
Clarification through the chair to director of finance. In the list of,
No, we are on 7.2, additional council budget motions. Does any council members have motions that they would like to put on the floor regarding the budget?
I possibly do, but I would like clarification of something.
Are you referring to the chart? Because that is the next item that we're doing, 7.1.2.
I am, I'm just not sure if it's included in the budget or not.
Okay, I'll allow your question.
In regards to the Station Arts Center MOU 25% budgeted level, is that in the budget now?
There, no, it's not.
There was a second level that was lower than the 25%, that was just under 10,000, that was a 20% increase.
So there's a couple of options. You can, you can put a additional budget motion on, or you can think about it. You can put a motion on for the next meeting as well. You could do it as a notice of motion this evening, or you could send it in ahead of the next budget meeting. And have it included in the last meeting when we deliberate the budget.
Thank you.
Yes.
Just a question for you. And this is jumping to the next motion, but, if we are, if we're gonna deal with this within the next motion and either pull stuff out or leave it in, that would likely preclude doing anything else like that. So I don't know whether we just want to leave that or.
That's the motion. I believe it's, we can't talk about the next one, we move on to the next one, sorry. Okay. Additional motions, we're seeing none, now we're going to item 7.1.2, and I'll be looking for highlights to the report.
So this report is based on council's resolution 2024-554, and that was to, outside of the OPP levy increase, was to bring the taxation level of 25 budget to align with CPI or 3.08. So the reason why this report was in the sequence of the reports that it was we were going to walk through and say, this is how we get to 3.08, and then all the other items that council will deal with that came after would have been in addition to the 3.08. So the, what is in the attachment is the list of items that have an impact, either an increase to the levy or a decrease to the levy, to be able to get to the 3.08 tax rate increase, which means the levy would be a 5.79. And then in addition to that, there were also some resolutions from the November 18th also meeting, the December 9th meeting. The two items that carried forward will move forward, and then also the station arts. And so in the appendix, the listing, the bottom, the total, the 1,215,091, that's how we get to a reduction of that amount. It gets us to the 3.08. And then for those two additional items, just we show what the impact to the overall levy would be with the addition of those two items. So the council has dealt with the walk-in clinic, so that would be another 0.68 of a percent. And then the station arts, if it's budgeted at 25%, that's would be an increase of 23,395, and that's a 0.11%. On the appendix 1 and 2, appendix 2 basically looks at the levy as we started it, the levy and the tax rate, that was 13.69. After all the changes, if all those items are supported, that would get us to the 3.08. And then with the OPP, that has changed since the last time we've looked at those numbers. The province, has come out with some additional funding. The original increase was 804,481. The town is receiving 641,165 of additional funding. Not additional funding, they're basically reducing the 804 down to 163,316. And so the 163,316, in addition to the 3.08 tax rate, brings it to the 3.85. And then the next one, with the walk-in clinic and with the station arts, that will bring it to 4.62%. Station arts of the 50% mark that I requested. And then the council budget, the extra 5,000 would be in addition to that as well.
Questions from council? Councilor Parker.
Through you, Mayor Gilvezi, to the Director of Recreation Culture Park. I see on this list of one of the removals, the anti-graffiti initiatives. I'm just looking for more information on what that is. I'm assuming it's removal of graffiti from signs and buildings and stuff like that.
So through you, Madam Mayor, this was actually an initiative to put sort of a vinyl, not vinyl, but like a cover over mailboxes and different boxes around the community. We still have money budgeted in our parks budget to remove.
Further questions from council?
I also get to do that too.
Through the chair, so if I could ask this question now. The Station Arts MOU, when it was increased last in 2021, they talked about an increase of minimum wage and costs, et cetera. And it was budgeted for a CPI increase of, do you have that number handy? I have looked high and low for these numbers and I can't seem to find them.
So according to the 2024 MOU, that was 47,105 with CPI of 3.08. That would be $1,451.
And then if there was the 20% of their budget amount increased, it was like $9,000 or $10,000. Is that correct?
Yes, 9,295.
And that doesn't include the CPI as well, correct? That's still based on the 47,000?
Correct.
Thank you.
Further questions from council? Oh, Kyle.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So just to comment on the list, we got the task from council, so we collaborated together, we provided, you know, the request you guys wanted to come to a 3.08. This wasn't done easily, and I want to stress that. Some people, being directors and staff, are concerned that, you know, we're not going to do it this year, but in 1 or 2 years, we're gonna have to do it again. Is that gonna come back on the levy? That's a concern. And, you know, are we cutting some services? You know, Kennedy fireworks on it. That's something we want to cut. I don't think so, but that's one of the ones that was discussed. So what we try to do is we try to budget or look at it as a need to do, you know, like to do, could do. And I know one of the ones on here that I said, I mentioned for the director is the reduction in the trip to Hanover, Massey. Our development committee is very passionate that, you know, he would like to attend that. He thinks that the gains in the future and the amount of retention of industrial and industry that we can get from that would help us in the future. But that's one of the ones again that we identified as that.
Thank you. So with the additions that we made today, what's the tax rate setting at right now? we have that number or do we need a minute?
That does not include the stationaries, correct? Four point five.
4.5. Dr. Lucian, you got a question?
For you to, the CAO, I'm just curious, anything on here, affecting any grants or anything I would hate to miss out on any opportunities, so is there anything on there that would be that, and just.
Through the chair, so I'll look to some of the directors to highlight any of the ones that they have connected to grants. I know the discussion with the development commissioner was that there is a 5,000 revenue associated with the Global Massey trip, but there's also an expense to that too. So there's more of an expense than a revenue coming in. That's a note. And then the rest on here would be any loss of revenue should be noted as a plus such as that. I'll look to the directors. I don't see anything further. I'll look one more time. No, and then you'll see the fire chief has up to his revenue into category as a positive.
Thank you.
I have a question. Last year when we were doing budget, and it was anticipated that there was gonna be over $1 million in plus, and I know that I asked, can we not use some of that to give back to the ratepayers, because essentially surpluses are the money. And the answer was no, because it'll affect the next budget. But yet this budget, like we're predicting a surplus, but we're using this money right to fill like an employee reserve that's gonna help mitigate the blow to the taxpayer, because the getting down to the 3.08%, it wasn't just removing items, it's how we're structuring the funding moving forward. So I'm curious as to what was the difference from last year to this year about using the surplus, because like, it doesn't apply the same when I questioned it last year.
Yes, so normally through my mayor council, in any given year, if we use any portion of the surplus to offset the levy, that is considered one-time funding, because next year you may or may not have that surplus. And so if the levy is going up, you only want to use one-time funding against one-time expenditures, generally. So that because the next year, then if you don't have those expenditures, you likewise may not have that revenue. This year, the idea about using the labor surplus, the intent was to try and use the labor component of the surplus to phase in some of the positions. So much like the tax rate stabilization reserve, we use it to either phase in or to cushion the levy increase. So rather than taking the impact all in one year, right? If we use a portion of that, we're phasing it into the levy. So that was the intent. And so with this, some of these positions, the amounts of this reserve, for example, used against some of the students, used against some of the new positions. So in aquatic, so this would be something new that would be hitting the levy. So we're saying, instead of putting that on the levy for the first year, for 2 years, well, let's fund it from this surplus. So it'll hit the levy in 2027. So we're just shifting. I mean, without that ability to use that surplus, it would mean finding an additional 350,000 into the operations.
Thank you, but in 2027, the full realization is coming to council of that funding. Like we're softening the blow with using taxpayers' excess dollars, we're softening the blow in 2026 and 2027. But the reality is, we overcharged in 2024, we overcharged. Now we're using that money to cushion the blow for 2025 and 2026, but come 2027, full realization of all that spending is gonna have to be paid with no cushion. Am I correct? Am I correct?
Yes, and in the appendix, we showing three different columns, so
Mhm.
the impact of 2025, and then we try to assess whether or not would there be an impact 26 and 27. Some of the reductions, again, are just phasing in certain items. And so, yes, where we're using one-time funding to against permanent cost increases, that is just shifting it down the line. So overall, we're saying next year, we would see an impact of about 1.5%, or now it would be 1.8. And then for 27, it'd be about 2.6%.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councilor Luciani?
Move on myself, second by Councilor Parsons. The report, finance 24-060 titled 2025 budget adjustment be received as information, and that the list of adjustments for the 2025 budget included in the report, finance 24-060 is appendix A, being in accordance with resolution number 2024-554 as representing a tax rate increase of 3.08% exclusive of the OPP contract cost, be approved with the following adjustments. And I'm open to a friendly amendment on anything that needs to be changed on that.
I am just gonna seek clarification because I think that the number should be 4.54 exclusive of the OPP. Because we've already passed items that have made that adjustment. Am I correct? Someone confirm, I think I'm right. So you guys say you would not.
So I heard.
4. Did you say 4.54?
With the station.
Yes.
With the station.
Mover, seconder, you're good with that? Just confirming with finance that I think that number needs to be 4.54 because we've already included all those other items.
Sorry, what do I look at?
Otherwise, we have to take those individually and have them in here, but I think if we do the 5.4 inclusive of what we've already done now, I think it works. Councilor Parker.
Through you, Mayor Gilvazy, to the mover and seconder. I'd like to request a friendly amendment to add in the recreation or RCP community events back in. These are all significant events that the public looks forward to, and I don't think that we can take away the Canada Day fireworks, Family Day event, Turtle Fest movie on the lawn. I think that these are all very important to the community, and I think we'll see a big uproar if we take away this stuff. People are already upset enough that we don't do more, so I'll leave it at that.
You're adding all 7 back in.
That would be my request.
It's finance itself now.
I'm just wondering, as we're adding them in, maybe we can get a running total of where we actually stand on this. There is other items that possibly could be added to this, and I want to make sure that we're not
Just-
all the way out.
Yeah, just a reminder that we may have other items coming yet, at the January meeting as well. Like the one that you asked about earlier, and there may be something else as well.
So the resolution, as it reads, exclusive of the OPP contract costs, was to show council how we got 3.08, if we're now looking at all inclusive with the additions and with the OPP, with the removal of the 7 items just put on the floor, that would be 4.69%.
Okay, that, like, up to this resolution tonight, we've put in 4.54, and then now this resolution is gonna add. So what did you say the new number is? 4.6? 4.6?
4.69.
4.69, so with adding the community events takes up to 4.69. Councilor Parsons?
Yes. I'm not opposed to these events, community events, but the fireworks, I mean, it's all going up in smoke, folks, and, is there not another way to do the fireworks with contributions and things of that nature? It looks to be a sizable number, I believe. Is that $14,000 we're spending on the fireworks?
Mhm.
So I'm not really liking that. Thank you.
So I have maybe a procedural question. This is going to the budget on January, and then if something goes in, there's still opportunity for councilors to take things out at that meeting as well. Can someone answer that question? Procedurally? Yeah, anyone?
Through the mayor, to the mayor, sorry. Yeah, the budget isn't finalized until you adopt the final budget, which is scheduled for the last meeting in January, so I believe
And
there's opportunity.
also with the movie, the mover asked, or the person that asked for the amendment, the friendly amendment, it's up to you whether the mover and seconder want to do that or read it a different way. It's still your motion, and Councilor Parsons, you are still the seconder.
I'm in support.
That is your seconder.
But second.
Because otherwise I'm gonna have to make an
Fireworks.
amendment and vote on the amendment. You can think about it for a minute, because Councilor Spencer.
Through you, Chair, I just have a question to the Director of Parks, Culture and Rec. The one item says anniversaries and grand opening events. Can you tell me what that is? It's only 3,000, but I'd still like to know what that money is going towards.
So through the mayor, thank you for the question. This will go towards any sort of grand opening. So like last year, it went to the water park. But we anticipated through this process that we might be doing a grand opening of an indoor pool in
Right.
2025.
Gotcha. Thank
So we'd
you.
like to be able to celebrate that with the community if possible.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the mover and seconder is still good with community events? There's nothing else. We have,
I will continue, I will support it reluctantly on those fireworks. I hope we can find some solutions to getting donations. I think we did that years ago. I think we used to pass the bucket and or do something in that nature. But I will support the amendment for the, it's not amended, it's a friendly.
friendly amendment, maybe
Thank you.
even one of our service clubs. That might be a good idea. Staff reach out to a service club to sponsor one. Good suggestion, Councilor Parsons. So we have resolution that says on the floor, community events, Councilor Luciani.
Just through you to, the director next to me here, in regard to the building maintenance, the two projects there, the indoor pool capital project delay, is that what you just talked about with Councilor Spencer, or?
So through you, Madam Mayor, I believe this is the debt payment. So I'll pass that to our finance director.
That's, thank you. Mayor, the budget is presented to council. We had anticipated based on the original timeline of project closure, that we would be issuing the debt and there would be 2 principal and interest payments in 2025. With a delay, there will only be 1 principal and interest payment. So we have reduced those amounts, respectively.
Thank you.
Yeah, the timing of what I'm about to say is related to the VIA levy. I'm not in favor of removing that VIA levy. Are we going to discuss that following your vote on this motion
There's a
or
separate vote.
separate vote? Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's next.
Thank you.
No problem. Oh, wait. No, I think we have to add it in. Should council wish to remove the 20,000 VIA budget from the budget, clause B should not be presented. Or council can vote, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna allow the vote separately on that.
Separately?
Yeah. Council Parker.
You, Mayor Gomez, and I'm just gonna put this out there for comment. The one area, that, we haven't seen a significant, increase in any FTEs, even though we've, had a significant growth is public works, and the reduction of 3 FTEs down to 1. I thank staff for getting to that point. I'm just wondering if that is too low. What impact the cut from 3 to 1 will have on that department?
Good Mayor, Councilor Parker. One is certainly better than none. When we looked at all the opportunities to cut, we don't want to diminish all the work that was put in by the former director and all the operations staff to come up with that justification. It doesn't really let the wind out of it. It still exists, but I think we recognize that this exercise is really to work towards council's objective through the CAO. I think, again, one, it would certainly be well received and it'll allow us to incrementally do what we had proposed to do. So we can live with that.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, further questions? Seeing none. You have a question, Ronald?
Yes, not a question, just a comment, just confirming on one of the line items, is the community grants. Just so council is aware.
Can we call the question now? All those in favor? Carried. Next, we will vote separately on the BIA. Councilor Luciani, want to put that resolution on the floor?
Yeah, move by myself and second by Councilor Parker that the Tillsonburg BIA levy amount requested 220,701 be approved. Do you want to incorporate clause B at the same time, or do you want to do it separate?
Oh, it's part of the resolution. You can write that.
I'll continue, and that the 20,000 BIA capital contribution for 2025 be approved.
Any further questions or discussion regarding this resolution? Councilor Parsons.
No question, this discussion. We heard the director tonight in the presentation answer a question that was put to him about what would happen if the $20,000 capital contribution was not approved. And I believe, it's pretty clear to me that there's a lot of vandalism taking place in the downtown. We know that not only the businesses in the district, but the residents of Tillsonburg speak very highly all the time of this beautiful downtown. And it brings a lot of people to Tillsonburg. And I'm concerned about the loss of that capital and how it's going to impact the look of the downtown and things are being damaged and need to be replaced, and it would be a shame not to protect our downtown core. So I don't know whether it'll be supported at the council or putting that contribution in, but I think it should be seriously considered, and I would be supporting that return to the budget. Thank you.
Further comments? Thank you, Councilor. Further comments or questions? That 20,000 capital, it comes out of the economic development budget, does it not? Is that still where it's coming from? Yeah. And then the 220 amount is minus the 19,000 because there's been nothing advanced, with regards to the BIA. Because the number that the BIA asked for in the resolution was 239. The council can't approve that 19,000 because the expanded zone has not been approved yet, correct? Okay. Any further comments from? No. Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Well, thank. Well, first, are there any notice? I think we no notice of motion for the next meeting. Oh, Renato,
Sorry, Madam Mayor, we're just losing track a little bit of so this last resolution approved the $20,000. The prior resolution that approved all the remaining lists that were not pulled out.
the only thing that the prior resolution, the prior resolution approved the entire chart minus the community events. The community events are gonna happen, funding for the community events.
Okay, so in that chart is the reduction of the VA capital.
I know, I understand that, but I allowed for the second motion to come on, so we corrected that because we dealt with the.
Okay, so it came out, went back in.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
Perfect. That understanding of council, right?
That's my understanding.
Okay. Notice of motions for the next meeting. Seeing none, I am going to now leave the chair and hand it over to the deputy.
Thank you, Mayor Macy. The next item on the agenda is motions. And I, just for clarity, I'll just maybe ask the clerk, do we need a motion for, something to be brought forward at this point?
Through to the deputy mayor to all of council, yes. So at this point, what you need to do is, present the following motion that the rules of notice be waived in accordance with procedural bylaw 4173, section 6.10.3 in order to address an urgent matter. Your procedure bylaw contemplates this may occur.
Thank you. Can I have a mover and seconder for that? Moved by Councilor Luciani, seconded by Councilor Parsons. Discussion? All in favor? Now, Mayor Macy?
Okay, I have a motion that's, going to go on the floor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councilor Parker. Whereas the town has an assignment of the agreement of purchase and sale between the town and 2776807 Ontario Inc. And whereas the material change to the agreement requires town approval. And whereas December 16th is the final open session meeting for 2024, be therefore it resolved that the request from 2776807 Ontario Inc. to the town to register a mortgage on title be approved, and that the Development Commissioner and CAO be authorized to execute any documents necessary to facilitate the transaction with 2776807 Ontario Inc. And may I speak to that, please?
Please do.
Thank you. So this came about quickly this afternoon, where the town has a policy that no mortgage be registered without the town's consent. So the town may recall that there's an exchange of lands happening from one entity to the other, and it was approved by the town. So when the town became aware that there was no, that our policy says no mortgage can be registered without the town's consent, we had to give consent. So basically, what this resolution is allowing the town to give consent that the purchaser can place a mortgage on the property. Councilor Spencer?
Questions?
Oh,
I
sorry.
have the chair.
Yeah, I know. I'm done.
Councilor Spencer?
Through the chair, is that being sent to us so we can read it?
Through the deputy mayor, yes, certainly I can do a quick email here, but just one note, because this is happening, in urgency today, there is actually some slight wording that the mayor would not have had because she has the printed copy from earlier. So the clause A does need to have after, the Ontario Inc. named party, it also needs Triumph Trailer Sales Inc. and J and Braun Inc. to be added to clause A. And then I'll have to ask Mr. Panchow, he's got now recent advice as of a few minutes ago from the town solicitor, so I need him to explain what the other piece is. I'll leave it with this one. Thank you.
Banjo?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. So basically the wording of that resolution just needs to be that the town consents to that mortgage being placed. So I'm not sure exactly where, I guess right now the wording of clause A ends along the lines of the town register. The town to register a mortgage on title will be approved. I think that he's looking for the word consent in there instead of approved. That's the way I read that, clerk, if you're correct. And this relates, through to, of course, the assignment of lot 1 in the phase 1 of the industrial park. The town has previously consented to allow these lands to be sold from the number company Triumph Trailer Sales, and they're looking to place a mortgage on the property, but that account approval has to come from council. Thanks, Mayor.
That's understood. Thank you. Councillor Parsons, questions?
Yes, thank you. In that this has come on very suddenly, and I do believe we had legal opinions on the original transaction from our lawyer, and not having the impact of this, if there is any. I wonder if I can ask through the chair, through you, Deputy Mayor, to the CAO about any risk that you would read within this resolution or this proposed resolution, any risk to the corporation that we should be aware of.
To the CAO?
To the CAO, please, sir.
Thank you, Councilor Parsons. I am just receiving this information just like you. Those are my first, to review it. But based on what I heard, I would go back to the development commissioner and, ask, by putting a mortgage on this, how does that fit with the town on any, orders that the town would fit, and of course, any risk with that mortgage.
And I'm trying to do so. Thank you, CAO Pratt. So the reason why this is a material change from what is previously approved to in that consent agreement, so council approved the consent agreement to allow this assignment. The consent agreement requires that the town's development covenants relating to start of construction, completion of construction, size of building, be registered on title of the property as well. So that as soon as this new party takes possession of the property, those development covenants that the town typically has will be registered on title of the property. When you allow a mortgage to be registered on title of the property as well, what that does is it subordinates or reduces the town's position, if you will, with respect to that. So that means that the town's development covenants are still registered on title. It's still a commitment, but the bank's considerations come first. So I think you'll be familiar with that. We've had this conversation, I think, with respect to Chef's Bakery recently as well, where council considered that and allowed the town's development covenants. Actually, at that point with Chef's, they were removed from title because Chef's had achieved quite a standard of development as council is aware. In this case here, they haven't achieved the standard of development. They're not asking for the covenants to be removed. They are asking for that mortgage document to be placed on title, which will move the town's development covenants to second in position. So that is the risk, is that the bank's concerns do come first. The challenge is that I've spoken with the buyer today a couple of times. They do need a mortgage on the property. And so the town, and they won't be able to close without it. So they were looking to close Friday. This came up late Friday. We worked through today as best we could. Then we had to get it to council. Clerk has worked to bring this to council, and the mayor as well. Thank you. But if the town wants to proceed with this, and get our funds involved in the disposing, we need to look at accepting it. So that's why it's in front of you late notice.
Something must take time. Councillor Parsons.
So in listening to that explanation, that's pretty clear to me that does present the municipality with a level of risk that we didn't have before. And it's different than Chef's Bakery, where there's proof of development. There's actually a structure on the property. I'm just not sure how this leaves me feeling when we're now adding this risk and we're not really getting nothing in return. What are we getting in return for taking that risk on?
Through the deputy mayor, I'll address that as well. So certainly, you subordinate your development covenants, the risk of not getting what you want is higher. You have to take the bank's considerations into account as well. But at the same time, it doesn't enable this deal to move forward. It doesn't enable the town to receive the net proceeds that it's already instructed. And then at the end of the day, as I mentioned, the town's development covenants are still registered on title. It's still a legally binding commitment, but it's slightly weaker than it was before. So there is risk, I can't deny that, but there are still measures in place to protect the town and its interests. So, thank you.
Councillor Spencer?
Thank you through your chair, to the Development Commissioner. So I have the same concern as Councillor Parsons with the shop situation. There's a lot of building already there. And if I recall correctly, this one, there could be nothing for years.
To clarify to the deputy mayor, what council did agree to last was actually a smaller building initially, but still a building initially along the same timeline. It's still a year from close. And it's just a smaller building that will be constructed. And I think it was, they were gonna, I know it was, they were then constructing additional buildings starting in year 3. So it's just taking longer to get to a larger lot coverage, but it's still a building within a year.
But as of right now, there is nothing, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, and have you consulted legal lawyer about this, their recommendations?
Through the deputy mayor again. So this request actually came to us through our lawyer. And they've noted, basically, they've noted these concerns, so that council is the person to make this, or the body, if you will, to make this business decision.
They didn't have recommendations.
They didn't have a recommendation one way or another, except to say that, we won't be able to close unless this is resolved.
Councillor Luciani?
Just a comment, it would be a shame at this stage, not to support this because, this really puts everything way behind on sales and what has happened and also good faith for what that we've done up to this point. So I would be supportive.
Thank you. Further questions? Questions? We have a resolution on the floor. Slightly amended, minorly amended. We've all heard the resolution. We understand the resolution. We'll call the question. All in favor? Motion's carried. I'll hand the chair back to the everybody.
Bylaws, Councillor Rosar.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Deputy Mayor Barris, that the following bylaws be read for the first, second, third, and final readings, and that the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to sign the same and place the corporate seal thereon. Thank you.
Moved to council, all those in favor? That would be carried. Confirm proceedings by law, Councillor Parsons.
Thank you, your worship. Moved by Parsons, second by Councilor Luciani. The bylaw 2024-129 to confirm proceedings of the council meeting held on December 16, 2024, be read for a first, second, third, and final reading, and that the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to sign the same and place the corporate seal thereon too.
All those in favor? Councillor Luciani.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Parsons, that the council budget meeting of December 16, 2024 be adjourned at 7:22 p.m.
All in favor? Here.